Howdy, everybody. Hope you're doing well. It's been a while, but I wanted to go ahead and update my spreadsheet here with the plan for games to beat this year. Quite a few things have changed since my last update. We're also going to take a look at the overall collection, and I'm prospectively looking at getting rid of a few games. I could talk about the reason why I'm considering it for each of these games later on in the video. But I think I'm going to start right here with the 2025 plan. Haven't updated it in a bit. I still go and do daily updates here on my backloggery, so you can still see kind of day-to-day updates. It's been a little sparse here for the past couple of weeks. Haven't really done as much as I typically do as far as just kind of day-to-day gaming. Just life getting busy, things getting a little hectic, and so I have not quite dedicated as much time, but I am still actively, as of the moment, playing 3 games. You'll see I still have the Goemon's Great Adventure active there, which is a game that I'm playing with a friend of mine, but truthfully, I just don't quite know when we're going to get to it to actually put in the time to finish it. I'm going to kind of change some of the details I have around there momentarily. But right now I am actively playing Final Fantasy IV Heroes of Light, Rad Racer, and I did start playing Morrowind as well on the original Xbox. I'm not too far into either Final Fantasy or Elder Scrolls 3. I have played Rad Racer quite a bit, tried my best to get as far as I could. I think the best I've done is the penultimate stage on a single run through, so quite a challenging game, and it's going to take quite some time to put in the proper run to finally finish that. But let me go ahead and go over here. I'm going to change some things. So as you all know, if you've watched any of the prior videos, I've got the possible length that this game will take me. So I think already Rad Racer I had like 10 to 15 hours. I'm well above that. Probably closer to 20 to 30 hour range. It is a very difficult game, so you really do have to get that perfect run to pull it off. And I'm probably only about 10-ish hours into Morrowind, maybe 15, and about the same into For Heroes of Light. So I'm going to go ahead and change here. So I have the month end that I hope to beat it in. At this point, I'm just going to move Goemon to I hope I beat it at some point this year. So I'm going to change the month end to the end of this year. And hopefully we just get it done at some point during the year. And I'm going to change For Heroes of Light to beat this month, along with Rad Racer. And Morrowind I'm going to keep to July, because I think it will take some time. I did start it last month, so that's still fine to keep. And the only other game, because I mentioned when I plan out my games for the year, summer tends to be a bit of a busy time where I might be traveling, going other places, and typically might say, well, that's a great opportunity to take some handheld games, do things like that. I've got a little bit of that mixed in here with this Pokemon Edición Azul that I purchased virtually on the 3DS. So there's a little bit of that mixed in here. Game Boy game with baseball. I think this gives me a pretty good, possibility. It gives me some pretty good possibilities for what to do for this year. And if I do get through everything from For Heroes of Light, so let's leave Great Adventure out of there, Goemon's for now. But if I do get everything that I do have, these are games that I'm playing prospectively with my daughter throughout the year, these different Kirby games and Ring Fit, which is just always on there to remind me that it's there, and I hopefully we'll get there one day. So I've got 19 possible games to beat. Certainly plenty of room for some adjustments there. And then I'm going to go quickly over to the beat games just to show off some of that for this year. So the last game I did beat, I did get through Super Mario Brothers 2. I want to talk through my feelings on the games that I've beaten at some point in another video, but I'll just give a quick summary that I just really enjoyed it. I thought Super Mario Bros. 2 was awesome. One of the better Mario games that I've played in quite some time, so I really had a great time with it. So year to date, these are the games that I have beaten. So this is 11 plus 19 prospectively is 30. That would be pretty good. I think that would put me pretty close. I think my best year ever is 31. And so now and things are getting harder now with just I've typically taken longer breaks as I've gotten older, getting close to 40 here now. So it's not as easy to stick to this plan, but, try and take a look at it and see what we can do. And that's one of the reasons why I'm looking at potentially getting rid of some games. These aren't any like big, super expensive games, but I think these are games that now that they're kind of sitting in the collection, I'm like, I don't think I'm going to get to this for some reason or another. It's not a game that I particularly want to prioritize. Um, and there might still be a couple other games that I want to get into the collection, and this kind of helps at least keep those numbers a little bit more manageable. You can see on the overall collection, like I've shown in the past, when you add up these hours short and hours long estimated time frames, all the way here at the bottom of the spreadsheet, you're looking at on average, how long is this going to take you to beat playing about a couple hours a day, which is about what I end up playing, averaging throughout the year. And so if the games were as short as I could potentially make them and really get through them quickly, we're talking about 17 years and, 23 years there for the long end. So if you take that into account, we're probably on the cusp of being about 60 if that's really the way things are going to go and I end up beating him. I'm always open to things changing in life. It's part of what you have to accept. But right now, this is the plan. This is what I'm hoping to do. So I'll take a quick peek back at the plan for this year, 2025. But I think I am going to leave this here. At times in the past, I've added additional games. But I think trying to juggle these 3 games, getting through just this month, in addition to potentially starting Breath of the Wild. So my wife right now is playing on our big TV. At nighttime would be typically the time I would play Breath of the Wild. But she's playing through Last of Us Part 2 now that we finished watching the season, and it's kind of reminiscing on how much more interesting the game makes that world and those characters. We'll put it that way. So I think this is still potentially a good one to get done this month, or at least get started. And I think I could beat these 2 this month, and then I'll still be playing Morrowind and Breath of the Wild. And I think those will be 2 good games to kind of be juggling going into July. So I'm going to leave this as is. And now getting in the collection, I've got the stack of games here that I'm prospectively interested in getting in selling off. So what I want to do is I'm going to filter this down to these games. I'm going to talk about each one, kind of why I'm considering getting rid of it, and then I'm going to actually remove them from the list here, and then see how that fit or adjust the overall time frame to beat the collection. So I think I've got 10 games here, and yeah, I'm going to take a look here. I'm going to deselect all these and just kind of go through. We'll go one by one. So the first one I'm going to pull right off the top is Super R-Type. So I have been getting into shmups, shoot 'em ups, whatever, shooters, whatever you want to call them. More and more over the past probably 3 or 4 years. I think some of the first significant ones I ended up beating was like Life Force on NES and Soldier Blade on the TurboGrafx. I had both of those on Virtual Console. I bought those on the Wii Virtual Console before it went away. Really enjoyed those. And, in my research on the R-Type series, of course, it's a classic series. This tends to be, one of the things I've realized, like, the difficulty is really, really adds up over time. It causes both a physical strain on my hands and wrist, but in a literal sense, and also the time frame that people estimate that you could beat these in is way out of whack. Because if you're not really, especially getting older, if you're not really, going to dedicate every waking moment to it and really get your way through. It's just not realistic to beat these games in this short of a time frame. So if I pull up Super R-Type, for example, 20 to 30 hours, it actually sounds somewhat fair to me. 7 stages. I've got a difficulty of 5, which is my highest difficulty rating. I think there's a good chance this could take me even that much longer because it is notoriously difficult. And Even though I can get through some shmups, it is taxing for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and take that one out. If I do add an R-Type one in the future, it will probably be a different one. My understanding is this is like R-Type 2 with some additional um, stages thrown in, and it just doesn't sound like if I'm going to ever play an R-Type game, that's maybe the one that I would want to go with. So I have it in the collection, which is cool, but I don't know. The next one I'm going to add as well, hopefully I keep my filter here, is DJ Hero 2. Yeah, I think with DJ Hero 2, let me make sure I'm doing this right. Scroll down and manually select it. Hopefully I can add it to the list. Yeah, there we go. So I enjoy Guitar Hero. I have beaten Guitar Hero 2. I think I got through it on hard, which is about my skill level. And this was a gift from kind of like a friend of my wife's who just actually was like their whole collection, their family's whole collection. They were like, here, have a bunch of Wii and like N64 games. And they gave us this along with the turntables and kept it and, kind of messed around with it a little bit here and there. But I think that, it's just not exactly the kind of game. There are rhythm games I really enjoy. I'm a big fan of Beat Saber, but obviously I like Guitar Hero, like I said, but I just don't think this is one I'm ever going to really get to or necessarily want to get to. And so I'm going to put that one to the side. I think that one is a safe one to potentially get rid of. The next one is Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3. At one point, this was, I was getting really into Dragon Ball kind of again, because, I was into Dragon Ball as a kid. And then, my wife is a big fan of Z growing up. And so I actually had never watched Z. I watched the original Dragon Ball as a kid. So she was like, hey, let's watch it together. Really enjoyed the series. And so at some point I was like, what are the best Dragon Ball games out there? And so I found this one. It was an expensive Wii game at the time. Kind of cool because it comes with a DVD with best fights on it, which I would miss that. That's kind of a cool thing to have here. I have messed around with this game, and I think one thing is fighting games they're extremely challenging for me, and I've got probably a good handful in the collection that I do want to get to, and I just don't know that this is one of the ones I'm really going to want to try and go through the gamut to beat. We also do have Dragon Ball Z Budokai, the original one, which is going to stay in the collection because my wife's game, one of the games that she had when we first got married, so it got added into our collection together, and I purchased this one on top of it. So, like I said, I think that in the end, I could part with this. I don't really think this is a game I'm going to prioritize or, want to beat heavily. So I'm okay with that as well. The next one I'm going to add is Tales of Symphonia Dawn of the New World. And the reason I'm going to add this one is because I did try and start Tales of Symphonia not too long ago, maybe within the past 6 months, and I probably got about 10 hours in, and it was pretty cool, but then I went on a vacation, I came back to it, I was like, I kind of want to start this fresh going forward, and I realized that, like, my interest in the Tales series is probably just going to stick with some of those bigger games in the series. I have Fantasia on a repro cart, I have Symphonia, and I have Tales of Arise on PS4, so, I just... This is not considered one of the better ones in the series. I'm not really one of those people who's very likely to play through every Tales games or anything like that. So, I think this is an easy one to be able to say, hey, it's a long adventure. I'm okay with parting with it. So speaking of big adventures that I'm okay with parting with, I have thrown this about in my head for quite some time, but I think I'm finally ready to just say, I just don't think I'm going to give a Monster Hunter game a go. And if I do, I don't think it's going to be this one. This was one that I bought back when the Wii U was still pretty fresh. I had some friends who were playing, I think, the 3DS version. And I got this kind of like late, thinking that I would play with them. And my reason for keeping it was always like it's such a iconic, well-known series. Um, I always am one of those people like I would like to try a new game to see what the fuss is about. So it's a type of game that I don't typically play. But I think the big problem with this is like to play through it. It's extremely long, extremely grindy, and it's an easy one to say, I could pass on it. I don't need to chunk 100 hours. We're talking about at this point, chunk 100 hours into one game that I may or may not enjoy, or I could pick up some 20, 30 hour games and play like three or four of those, much more desirable. There's still plenty of 100 hour or whatever adventures that I may want to play. I just think I'm okay with saying that this one is just not going to be one of them. Speaking of longer games, I think I do have this one listed as a pretty long game, right? Yeah, 60 to 80 hours. So Tokyo Mirage Sessions FE, when the Wii U was coming out and I had it, I still have it, but I was just looking for games to add to the collection that were very unique. This one I think ultimately got redone on Switch. I didn't know anything about it. It just looked like RPG Central, which is kind of, one of my favorite genres. And I was like, okay, cool. So like Atlas mixed with Fire Emblem, I think is what it is. If I am correct in understanding that, that's what the FE is for. It's like Fire Emblem cross like a Persona type of world. Yeah, I think this is just, if I'm going to play those types of games, I'm going to probably play their proper series. And this is a neat idea. But I think I watched a review on it recently and I was like, yeah, it's just not really something I think I'm going to dedicate the time it's going to take to beat it to get it in the collection. So pretty easy one, I think, to prospectively add. Of course, I don't know that for sure, but I will likely add it. But that's why I'm going through here. Fallout 4 is another one. Very, very long game, obviously. I've never played any of the Fallout series. I just started playing Elder Scrolls. My understanding is that most people really love 3 in New Vegas, and 4 is kind of like the outlier. And maybe in the future there will be a brand new one, which will really be that great that everyone wants to play. This one is one that may stay in the collection. This was one that my wife purchased originally, and she really wanted to give it a go. She gave it a go for about like 5-ish, 10-ish hours maybe, and was just kind of like, I don't get it. I don't, maybe she wants to keep it in to give it a future try. But personally, I'm going to present this to her and be like, I'm okay with getting rid of this if you are. So we'll see what happens with that. It's a very long game. Going to take a long time to get through it. And like I said, I just think there's better if I'm going to play Fallout, I think I would play 3 or New Vegas over this one. So easy one to potentially say bye to. And this one's a little bit harder for me to say bye to, but I think it makes sense to do so. And it is Final Fantasy, which I'm a big fan of the series, Type 0. I was so interested in this game when it was originally being hyped as a Gedo 13 back in the day, and obviously it didn't come out on PSP. We got a port of it on the PS4. I've actually played about 15 to 20 hours of this, and the opening cinematic was one of the best things I ever saw playing any Final Fantasy game. It was emotional, it was heartrending, and I was just like pretty blown away. And then the game started, and I really liked the overworld, and it had some pretty cool music. Some of it felt a little bare bones, but the combat and the way things flowed felt really difficult to get into. I think I was like locked in at a certain point, but yeah, I don't know. I think that one of my main interests are really character and story for video games, and I think this probably has a pretty good one. But it's also one of those ones that I think it's quite long, and if I have to say, or if I'm going to say bye to a game, and I ever really want to get it back, I don't think this one is going to end up being that hard to track down. Could end up eating my words on that one, but I don't think this is one that, like, if I never beat it in my life, I'm going to be like, damn, I never got to Type 0. What a bummer. I love the Final Fantasy series. I think it's, but there's still so many that I have gaps on. that this is just, I think, one that I'm okay at this point with saying, like, you know, I'm gonna pass on it. Last couple here, Project X Zone. So I really liked the idea originally when I was purchasing this. That this was a strategy RPG with like Mega Man and Resident Evil characters and all this stuff. And I still think that's a pretty cool idea, but it's really long. It's really grindy from my understanding and reviews and other people that I've talked to. And I don't know. I think at this point, this type of game is just not really for me. And I think it's okay to realize that you're at a point in that life where you could say that. Um, and I don't really see the value in keeping it per se. It's neat enough. It's cool. The art looks cool. I've always like had it in the back of my mind, like, maybe I'm gonna start it. But every time I think I'm like gonna start it, I end up just putting it away anyway. So I think Project X Zone is one I can go ahead and part with. And the last one, a little bit of another surprise, but it actually popped up briefly, but it is another Final Fantasy, and it's Dissidia Final Fantasy. I think the thing with Dissidia is, like I said, there. I love Final Fantasy games. I've beaten 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 12, 13, 15, 12 Revenant Wings, Tactics Advance, like a good handful. I'm probably forgetting a couple others. There was definitely a point where I was like, this is a different type of game I'd really like to experience, a fighting game kind of hybridized with RPG mechanics. And yeah, I think it's just, again, at this point, my interest in that has kind of waned quite a bit. And I'm okay with parting with it, and if I don't beat a Dissidia game, it's not going to be the end of the world. I mean, truthfully, it's not going to be the end of the world if I don't beat any of these games, but I'd rather make sure that I make time for these other games. And I don't think any of these games at the end of the day are any that I'm going to really regret. The last time I did a sell, I got rid of like La Pucelle Tactics, a few other ones, and I honestly, like, time has passed on, and I have not really regretted it. Actually, I could take a look back real quick here on my history on Backloggery when I last did delete out some stuff. And let's see, I think it was been last year, 2024. Might have been around the beginning of the year. I thought I would have it pretty easy to find. Oh, let me take a look at 2023. If I don't find it, it's not that big of a deal, but I thought it would be worth mentioning. Well, they're not there, but no big deal. I think that, like I said, these are ones that they're all longer games too. So cutting back this much on the perspective time to beat is, likely quite helpful. So I'm just gonna, I have not sold these as of yet. These are just games that I've identified that I'm likely to. So I'm gonna right click. I'm going to delete these rows, and then I wanted to see what that would do. So yeah, you can see even that, some pretty long games. Cut that down from whatever it was, 20, actually let's undo it. 23.21 to 22.27. That's a number of years, literally. And then 16.68 to 16. So, I mean, look, it's 10 games. It's probably nominal, but I think we're still talking, and I think that kind of highlights a point. It's still a lot of time to get through to potentially beat everything else that's in the collection. So, I'm going to go ahead and put everything back for now. Oops, there we go. But I wanted to see what it would do to the overall collection, to the overall time frame to get through and beat these games. I've also got games that, my daughter's interested in playing, like co-op games together and stuff like that. So getting rid of a chunk of these games that are kind of longer just gets easier, I think, as I've gotten older. And, there will probably be more to come. We'll just have to see how time goes. This has been a little bit of a long one, but hopefully you've if you have sat through and watched kind of me talking through all this stuff, you've enjoyed it. And as always, my spreadsheets here are available to anybody. If anybody would like, I can make them public if they'd like to categorize their own collection the same way, and see if it's something that you'd ever really like to beat one day, as I do. Thanks everybody for your time. If you have stuck through this far, appreciate it and appreciate you. Take care.